statement given by Aam Aadmi Party. What else they can say in this situation? This is the only way to treat कि हाँ जी हमारे तो बेकसूर हैं जी, हमें तो इलेक्शन का अरेस्ट किया जा रहा है. What else they can say? Can they say कि हाँ अरविंद केजरीवाल ने गलत किया, उसको जेल तो जाना ही पड़ेगा? Not possible. So what other excuse they have? This is the only one excuse they have, and they have to sing like this. They'll keep singing.
Mr. Sissa, what would you say to the Aam Aadmi Party leaders? They are now looking at gathering at the Ram Leela Maidan. All of them want to protest against the way in which Enforcement Directorate has now taken the custody of Arvind Kejriwal.
So, first of all, what protest is about? The protest should be against Arvind Kejriwal, and the protest by Congress should be against Arvind Kejriwal at his residence. The reason being it was the complaint of Congress party in which they said that Arvind Kejriwal is involved in this liquor scam and he should be immediately arrested. After the case was registered, it was the Congress which came out and said कि देखिए हमारी कंप्लेंट के ऊपर मुकदमा दर्ज हो गया, अब अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को जेल में डालना चाहिए और इनको रिजाइन भी करना चाहिए. It is the complaint of Congress. And now Congress saying कि नहीं जी अब अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ठीक हो गए हैं. Because अरविंद केजरीवाल जी क्यों ठीक हो गए हैं? क्योंकि उन्होंने हमें 3 सीटें अलायंस में दे दिया दिल्ली में लड़ने के लिए, इसलिए अरविंद केजरीवाल जी अब ईमानदार हो गए हैं. I don't understand all of those people. The protest is not against Arvind Kejriwal. In fact, the protest is of the people who are either on bail or in jail. Most of them are wanted in the CBI and ED cases. Most of them on bail. So basically, the looters of this country have been looting this country from last 25 years. Get together कि हमें तो बचना पड़ेगा, वरना हम तो खत्म हो जाएंगे, हम करप्शन के केसेस में बाहर ही नहीं आ पाएंगे. हमें तो अब they are fighting against not corruption, but they are fighting against the corrupt, with the corrupt, just standing with the corrupt system. They are standing with the most corrupt Chief Minister of Delhi. They are supporting him by saying, Arvind Kejriwal, corrupt, Baiman politician, Jindabad, Jindabad, Jindabad. Now this kind of slogans are you using? Saying corruption Jindabad, saying corruption do, hum vote do, hum corruption karenge. So I think people of this country are definitely seeing what is happening in the capital.
Mr. Sissa, do you believe the people of the national capital were indeed taken for a ride in which the entire excise policy was formulated and then implemented and then later the policy was scrapped?
Definitely. Definitely, reason being, if you remember, this excise policy was formulated when at the time when entire country was in the grip of COVID. People were dying to the lack of oxygen and medical equipment and medicines. And this gentleman was busy in formulating this excise policy. And secondly, the most important, if you remember, Arvind Kejriwal said, मैं 800 school बनाऊंगा. In spite of the 800 school, he made 800 liquor vents. And this entire process was कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शराब बेची जाए. And in that single year, one must remember always, in that single year, when this went with the private vendors, the sale of liquor was twice. It was 13,800 crore rupees. Earlier it was 7,000 something. So it was almost twice, and Arvind Kejriwal was giving one bottle free with another bottle. एक के साथ एक शराब की बोतल फ्री दी जा रही थी. So is this the purpose of forming the government in Delhi by Arvind Kejriwal? वो लोगों को किताबों की बजाय शराब की बोतल हाथ में थमा रहा था. And that is the reason आज वो शराब के घोटाले के चक्कर में जेल में है. I to believe that mothers of this दिल्ली की माताओं ने मंदिरों में जाके पूजा करी थी कि अरविंद केजरीवाल का शराब घोटाला जिसके कारण उनके बच्चों को शराब परोसी जा रही है, ऐसे शराब घोटाला करने वाले को जेल जाना चाहिए. And that is the reason he is behind bars.
Mr. Sissa, you just spoke about the fact that the mothers indeed, were extremely disturbed in which the way in which the liquor was being distributed. We are now seeing how Sunita Kejriwal, wife of Arvind Kejriwal, has been coming to the fore and speaking about the fact that A, Arvind Kejriwal has been writing to her, and B, Arvind Kejriwal is all set to actually, come out with evidence and to show who has actually got the money in the Liquorgate case.
So first, I have all sympathy. Being a wife of a person who is behind bars, definitely she must be worried. But one thing is, with all my utmost respect towards her, this is another fraud played by the family by saying कि जी उनको तो मेरे को चिट्ठी दी है. And who gave you this letter? And secondly, मैं ये उनकी आत्मा आपके बीच में है, शरीर उनके बीच में नहीं है. ये गिमिक्स के कारण अरविंद केजरीवाल ने लोगों को दिल्ली के बेवकूफ बनाया था. लेकिन अब दिल्ली के लोग बेवकूफ बनने वाले नहीं हैं. वी मस्ट अंडरस्टैंड. अब दिस इज नॉट दिस केस नाउ. पीपल आर वेल अवेयर कि आप खुद तो शीश महल में रहते हैं, 75 करोड़ रुपए के घर में रहते हैं और कह रहे हैं हम 2 कमरे के घर में रहेंगे. द सोल पर्पस वाज टू अमेज द वेल्थ, पैसा इकट्ठा करना, सबसे अमीर मुख्यमंत्री बनना, बड़े घर में रहना, बड़े बड़े जहाजों में घूमना, ये पर्पस था आपका पॉलिटिक्स में आने का. योर सोल पर्पस वाज दिस. आई थिंक Mrs. Kejriwal should answer कि आप क्यों अपना पासपोर्ट
Right, Mr.
नहीं
Sirsa.
देना चाहते? She should answer Kejriwal.
Thank you, Mr. Sirsa, for joining us on the broadcast. The BJP very clearly saying that money has actually changed hands and it's only the legal course that is now taking place. My colleague Shreya is also joining me on the story. Shreya, we are seeing that from the three ministers who were the part of the group of ministers, now the third minister has also been given out a summon by the Enforcement Directorate. The Delhi minister, in fact, is being accused of helping in formulating the policy and then at a later stage sharing the draft with the South cartel.
Kailash Gahlot was one of the ministers who was a part of the group of ministers who were involved in drafting the excise policy. The allegation suggests that when the excise policy was drafted, the draft of the policy was shared with the South cartel. The South cartel implies those who were involved in getting undue advantages from the excise policy in return of favors. These include the likes of K. Kavita, Samir Mahendru, etc. Remember, that is the allegation that is being investigated by the ED. The ED is right now pinning that the South cartel had given 100 crore to the Aam Aadmi Party for fighting the Goa elections. Now, the Enforcement Directorate is questioning Kailash Gahlot. A, why was the draft policy shared? B, why was Vijay Nair saying at a...
Shreya, stay on with me. Udit Raj from the Congress party is now joining me on the story. Mr. Raj, very clearly we are seeing the BJP on one side saying it is only the Enforcement Directorate and the courts which are at work here. We don't have anything to do with this. But the Aam Aadmi Party leaders obviously saying that this is nothing but just a political gimmick to pick the top leaders one by one.
See what happened, those who are not in BJP are not supporting BJP. They all are being targeted. And Kailash Gahlot is not an isolated case, but there are several thousands and hundreds of them. And I tell you, I bet if Kailash Gahlot joins BJP tomorrow, today itself, someone will die, the someone and cases will die on their own death. It has happened in case of Praful Patel, that his case has been closed, where he was involved in more than 800 crores of embezzlement. And of course, Chhagan Bhojpal, and there are a number of the cases, and those who joined BJP, and now almost all cases have been hushed up. So it's a matter of democracy. Nothing. What I can say is that freezing the account of the Congress party and widespread riots on opposition leaders in the country, and CBI also CBI income tax, all are doing only work is to crush opposition. ED is up on courts on top. They are crushing, and that's very unfortunate, and democracy is dead.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Udit Raj. Congress spokesperson speaking about the fact that if all the ministers now start making a beeline for the BJP, then all the cases will be dropped. My colleague Shreya is still with me on the story. Shreya, if you can tell us for the viewers, what are the major 2 points that the Enforcement Directorate, on the basis of which has been sending summons to Aam Aadmi Party leaders?
The entire allegation is that the Delhi Excise Policy 2021 to 2022, when it was drafted in a manner that undue advantages could be given to certain liquor vendors in return of undue advantages. The Enforcement Directorate is investigating the money trail that was exchanging hands, which is the proceeds of the crime. Now, we've already seen the Enforcement Directorate arrest K. Kavita, the RS leader, who's also allegedly a part of the South cartel, and now with Sarachandra Reddy, who's now an accused and an approver, Samir Mahendru. They allegedly hatched a conspiracy, is what the Enforcement Directorate suggests. And subsequently, Arvind Kejriwal, Manish Sisodia was also a part of the conspiracy in return of getting alleged feedback.
Thank you for giving us all those details. My colleague telling us the basis on which Enforcement Directorate has now been sending out the summons to Aam Aadmi Party leaders.
National capital, where another AAP Neta was grilled by the ED. The Enforcement Directorate continues to dig deeper in the liquor policy scam. After Arvind Kejriwal's arrest, the investigating agency grilled Delhi Minister Kailash Gahlot in the national capital today, where the ED has accused Gahlot of constantly changing phone numbers. Also, the accusation is that Gahlot had been helping the accused Vijay Nair, who was AAP's communication in charge. Gahlot reportedly also allowed Vijay Nair to use his official residence. Already, Aam Aadmi Party's Arvind Kejriwal, Manish Sisodia, Sanjay Singh, Satyendra Jain, Vijay Nair are in the custody of the ED for their role in the Delhi excise policy case. Meanwhile, BJP has hit out at Aam Aadmi Party over Kejriwal Ko Ashirwad campaign and said that people in large numbers demanded his resignation on messages. The party has also called Arvind Kejriwal Pablo Escobar.
आज कैलाश गहलोत जी को बुलाया है, क्या पता कल मुझे बुलाएं, परसों सौरभ जी को बुलाएं, उसके बाद एक एक करके आम आदमी पार्टी के हर नेता, हर विधायक, हर कार्यकर्ता पर झूठे आरोप लगाकर उनको समन भी करेंगे, उनके घर रेड भी करेंगे, उनको गिरफ्तार भी करेंगे। ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी की साजिश है।
केंद्र सरकार बहुत डेस्परेट है, ये चुनाव हार रहे हैं। अब इनके पास एक ही तरीका है कि अपोजिशन पार्टी के नेताओं को जेल भेजा जाए, अपोजिशन पार्टी के बैंक अकाउंट्स को किसी भी तरीके से सील किया जाए और पैसे के बलबूते पे एक तरफा चुनाव लड़ें, जिसमें सिर्फ भारतीय जनता पार्टी चुनाव लड़ रही हो, मैदान में और कोई ना हो, सब लोग जो हैं जेल में हो, अकाउंट फ्रीज हो। इस तरह से नहीं चलता। कहां भारत एक महान प्रजातंत्र के लिए जाना जाता था और आज केंद्र सरकार ने हमें इस स्तर तक पहुंचा दिया है।
हमारा पहले से मत था कि शराब घोटाले में आम आदमी पार्टी के कई सारे नेता मुख्यमंत्री समेत शामिल हैं और जांच एजेंसी अपना काम कर रही है और कई परत दर परत खुलासे हो रहे हैं। तो मुझे लगता है अब शराब घोटाले में और नए किरदार सामने आएंगे। जिसने चोरी की है, जिसने भ्रष्टाचार किया है, उसे जवाब तो देना ही पड़ेगा।
News that's coming in at the moment. Delhi Minister Kailash Gahlot has now been summoned by the Enforcement Directorate. The summon has been sent with regards to the Liquorgate scam. It's the same scam with regards to which the Enforcement Directorate has now got the custody of Arvind Kejriwal. Delhi Minister Kailash Gahlot has now been summoned. The latest to be summoned in the Liquorgate scam is Kailash Gahlot. He's been summoned in the Liquorgate case. He's been summoned by the Enforcement Directorate today. He's been questioned with regards to the excise policy. Kailash Gahlot, in fact, was part of the GOM that prepared the draft policy for the change in the liquor excise policy. The claims being made at the moment was that the draft excise policy was leaked to the South Group. Kailash Gahlot is also accused of letting his official residence being used by Vijay Nair. Enforcement Directorate had earlier said Gahlot had also changed his mobile numbers repeatedly during the relevant period. This is the latest summon that has now been sent by the Enforcement Directorate. The government has now been sent this notice. The questioning will take place with regards to the excise policy. According to Enforcement Directorate sources, Kailash Gahlot was part of the group that had prepared the draft policy. The draft policy, according to Enforcement Directorate, was later leaked to the South Group. Kailash Gahlot is also accused of letting his official residence being used by Vijay Nair. ED had earlier said Kailash Gahlot had changed his mobile numbers repeatedly during the relevant period. This is the latest summon which is now being sent with regards to the Liquorgate policy. One after the other, Aam Aadmi Party leaders have been questioned by the Enforcement Directorate with regards to the changes that they made to the now scrapped liquor policy. My colleague Arvind Oja is now joining me on the story. Arvind, latest मंत्री दिल्ली सरकार से हैं जिनको ये समन भेजा गया है एनफोर्समेंट डायरेक्टोरेट द्वारा कैलाश गहलोत। एनफोर्समेंट डायरेक्टोरेट का कहना है कि इनके घर का इस्तेमाल किया जा रहा था विनय नायर द्वारा और फोन को भी रिपीटेडली चेंज कर रहे थे कैलाश गहलोत।
बिल्कुल, देखिए जो कैलाश गहलोत है उनको ईडी ने सम्मन किया। और देखिए इंटरेस्टिंग बात ये भी है कि अरविंद केजरीवाल फिलहाल ईडी की कस्टडी में है, तो बहुत मुमकिन है कि सम्मन अगर किया गया है कैलाश गहलोत का तो अरविंद केजरीवाल से आमना सामना भी करवा सकती है ईडी। नंबर 1। नंबर 2, जो अक्यूज्ड विजय नायर है उसको अपने घर का इस्तेमाल करने दिया। नंबर 3, जो ग्रुप ऑफ मिनिस्टर की मीटिंग हुई थी जिसमें एक्साइज पॉलिसी ड्राफ्ट हुई थी उसका पार्ट कैलाश गहलोत भी थे। इसके अलावा आरोप ये भी है कि कैलाश गहलोत ने भी अपना मोबाइल जो है वो कई बार चेंज किया था। तो ये तमाम वो चीजें हैं जिसको लेकर ईडी की टीम कैलाश गहलोत से पूछताछ करना चाहती है और इसी वजह से उनको सम्मन भेजा गया।
जी अरविंद, हमें जो देखने को मिल रहा है वो है कि एक के बाद एक एनफोर्समेंट डायरेक्टोरेट कई सारे दावे पेश कर रही है। उनका ये भी कहना है कि जितने भी मंत्री हैं, चाहे वो मनीष सिसोदिया की बात करें, अरविंद केजरीवाल की भी बात करें और अब कैलाश गहलोत की भी बात करें, तो एक चीज जो सामने आती है वो ये है कि फोनों को डिस्ट्रॉय किया गया है, एविडेंस को डिस्ट्रॉय किया गया है। एनफोर्समेंट डायरेक्टोरेट का अब तक का जो मानना है वो ये है कि कुछ जो मंत्री थे उनको मालूम था किस तरीके से चेंजेस किए जाएंगे। वो चेंजेस को फिर जो साउथ कार्टेल है उसको बताया गया था और उसके बाद अप्रूवल के बाद ही जो पॉलिसी है उसको फाइनलाइज किया गया था। अरविंद,
जी,
we'll try and recorrect with my colleague Arvind Hoja. The latest minister from the Delhi government is Kailash Gahlot, who's now been sent